of you friends to the Pastor's Weekly. My name is Chris Coursey, and you know what? I love what I do because I have a ministry that is involved in starting joy in families, and leaders, churches, and I'm the assistant director for Shepherd's House, and spent about 6-7 years as a pastor of a small congregation in Michigan, and I spend a lot of my time enjoying this precious family you see on your screen, and yeah, have a lot of fun things going on, but I'm particularly excited about our time today because one of the things we try to do with these Joy Streams, we want to talk to you, we want to interact with you, and we have special guests each week, and what we do is we talk about what they do and how that relates to us leaders, how that relates to joy. And so we'll spend a little bit of time hearing from our special guest today, and then we want to interact with you. We want to hear from you. And so by all means, don't be shy. We're pretty easygoing around here. We just want to talk with you and interact with you about how what you hear today applies to your life, applies to your ministry. And I met this really special guy here. I got to say, Keith, I think it's been, I don't know how many years ago, I met you at a Thrive, and the name here, everybody, is Keith Dorscht, and he has this ministry. He started this special ministry called the Communication Cure. And so what Keith is going to talk about today is meaningful communication that starts joy. And Keith, I want to welcome you. This is your first time here on the Pastor's Weekly. So glad to have you, sir. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. It is great to be here, Chris. Thanks for the invitation. Actually, the first time I met you was at it used to be ICBC, now Deeper Walk Ministries.
Right.
And Jim Wilder was presenting, and you were there in the crowd, and you were kind of the buffer, keeping people from Jim. You're answering every question that you could possibly answer. And after I heard Jim speak, I had so many questions. I kept coming up to you after every session.
That's right.
Then we reconnected at a Thrive conference. I think it was probably 2000, and do they run even years or odd years?
You know,
Every year.
they were both for a while. Yeah.
Okay. So I've been to a few and presented at one. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, we go back quite a ways, probably back to 2006, yes. I think.
Wow.
So, good, yeah.
That's neat. Well, thank you for being here, Keith. You've got a really cool ministry. I want people to hear a little bit about what you do and why you do what you do.
Okay. And I'll do that. I will show my presentation, and we'll go right from there.
Nice.
All right. It is, today's topic is meaningful communication that starts joy. And this resource has gotten a lot of recognition. It's been used in a lot of places. I've been interviewed in several places. But really, to answer your question, Chris, where it comes out of is I moved from Canada to Colorado Springs 10 years ago and joined a counseling ministry. It was Biblical Concepts in Counseling with the director, John Regier. And very, very effective marriage counseling ministry. And John would speak all over the country. And after he would speak in, say, Lansing, Michigan, we would get tons of people coming the next few months from Lansing, Michigan. And we had them for 15-hour intensives. So in the last 10 years, I've done 450 intensives with couples, giving each couple 15 hours. And had the unique, I think, privilege and opportunity to deal with couples together all the time. You know, a lot of counseling today is talking to one spouse and hearing one side of it and trying to work with that, maybe because the other spouse doesn't want to come. But we were just set up in a way that people came, they left work, they left their family, all their distractions, and came to beautiful Colorado Springs and spent 15 hours with one of our counselors. And so in that, one of my goals was to make sure that that couple was as connected as possible from that time forward, because I wasn't going to be going home with them. In addition to the 450 intensives, I've done 20,000 hours of counseling. And this is all, I'm not a licensed person at all. I am counseling out of pastoral credentials. I was a youth pastor, then an assistant pastor, and then really poured into the counseling ministry. So a fair bit of experience just in the ministry context. Of course, I'm sure, Chris, you would agree that Our real ministry begins with our family, and is refined in our. Sorry, I got a call there. And is refined in our family. So this is my family. Nancy on the left. We've been married 18 years, and I met Nancy. She has a special needs brother, and she had just become a Christian. She was in chiropractic college in Canada, and she put an ad up at the seminary I was attending for someone to come and work with her brother who was coming out of an abusive home to live with her. And I went for the interview, and I got the job, and I knew I got the girl. I went home and I said, I met the girl I'm going to marry. I just knew it. And now, 18 years later, we have 6 children. Eric on the right's our firstborn and her son, and then 5 daughters, all beautiful like their mother, and great kids. I brag on them a lot. But Maggie's won Volunteer of the Year for Colorado Springs. Eric works at Mardell Christian Bookstore in town.
Wow.
The other kids are all real kids. And I say that because, and this is important to my ministry and what I'm trying to accomplish, is that 10 weeks after we were married, my wife Nancy was put in a mental hospital for 4 months, where she, besides the suicidal tendencies, the depression, she was working on overcoming an eating disorder that she had since the age of 5. So she had it for 18 years. And the Christian psychiatrist that we had, who was a good psychiatrist, he made the mistake, though, in the first appointment of telling her I have the least hope for you of anybody, because I've never had anyone who started so young and had it this length of time before they got help. Well, while she was in the hospital, she was diagnosed post-traumatic stress disorder, permanently disabled by the board of psychiatrists, meaning not able to function in life, never be able to hold anything equal to even a part-time job, without it just causing too much stress for her that it puts her at risk for suicide and deep mental issues. She was also told there that she'd never be able to have children because she damaged her body so bad. She was under 100 pounds when I met her, and she's just healthy now. And that the eating disorder is honestly not an issue. It hasn't been. I think it really took her probably 5 years to say it wasn't an issue. So I brag on my kids a bit, and I show them just to say that you can come. I have hope for everybody. Everybody's situation can change. People can find the strength to get through and overcome their issues and find the healing from the different types of trauma, the A and the B trauma. And I've also realized people marry equal. So I wasn't any better. I could function better in life. I was an assistant pastor, and I looked good. But at home, for me to lose it was not an issue. I had no problem. I could say words that would peel the wallpaper off the walls when I got upset, and was not the person I was presenting to people at church, and it was all around the issues with Nancy and me. And so I wanted to blame her for everything, because I never had any of these issues and acting out before I met her. And then someone said, Keith, a godly man doesn't marry an ungodly woman, and vice versa. And I just realized, you know what, relationally, at our relational capacity for close, intimate relationships, we were equal. We were the same. And she would say, we'd have a fight, and she'd say, I'm going downtown in Toronto. I'm going to get a gun. I know where I can get it. I'm going to go kill myself. And I would go in the bedroom, literally lay in bed, put the covers over my head at 10 in the morning, and just pray and say, God, I hope she comes back, because I don't have anything in me to go after her and get her and chase her and get her back and reconcile this. I was so wounded myself. So we were not a healthy couple at the start. And now we've come a long way, and I honestly do attribute a ton of it to the Thrive material and the life model, working through the traumas, going through the books, understanding maturity. And they say adults learn best by teaching other people. So I am maturing as I teach my clients that I'm dealing with maturity, and teaching it in my children. And so it is possible for God. And you've all seen examples of God changing lives. This is what he's done.
Amen.
Any
Praise God.
comments or questions there, things you want to ask, Chris?
No, I just want to thank you for sharing that. That is, wow. You speak from experience.
Yeah. And God's always told me, Keith, if it doesn't work at home, don't export it.
Wow.
And so trying to maintain that integrity. There have been times where I've taken couples through issues of selfishness and pride and things, and there's days where God says, this is for you, this is the message for you.
Wow.
You've got to apply this in your life. So God's faithful. He's creating something here, I think, in my family that is coming out into the ministry and coming into this resource. And I like to say, Nancy and I, we always prayed before we got married in our early marriage, God, take everything evil that's happened, turn it around for good, and multiply it 100 times.
Wow.
And we just anticipated that. We see some of the things happening today, and we just go back. I don't know why it's happening, except God's answering that prayer.
Amen. That is neat.
Makes a lot of sense. Well, and I was encouraged, Chris, that last time we were together, hearing your story and you sharing where you were at, and that was refreshing too. So I appreciate your honesty.
Thank you.
Move on here. You ever get tongue-tied? You ever been dealing with a couple that is tongue-tied? People think that's me. That's not me. Let me go back. That's me. That's not me. Very close to me, but it's not. But you see that woman in the background? I guess this picture has been me. It has been Nancy and myself at times. And, words cannot fix that situation. And not only words can't fix a situation, but certainly a book or information is not going to change this situation. And so we need something that's going to help us with more than just information. Chris, would this audience be familiar with the 5 levels of pain and what is needed to resolve each level?
There'll be a few of my friends here that will understand that. Most probably not. We have a lot of new friends here with us.
Good. Well, this is exciting information, and there are 5 levels, and I like to just talk about 2 because they're the real relevant ones. The first one, the mildest level of pain is confusion, and that would be, hey, what time is the webinar today? What time is the Pastor's Weekly? And all you have to do is go back to your email, and you read that document, and that confusion is gone. You never lose sleep over it. You don't develop PTSD from it. Information solves it. The most severe form of pain is that of being alone, which makes total sense because even before sin entered the world, God identified there's something identified as not good, and it was that man was alone. So it's not a result of sin, but it's showing that we are designed not to be alone. And so to resolve the pain of being alone, you need the presence of someone who loves you, the one who loves you, whether it's God, whether you have people in your life, but you need their presence. They don't have to say a word. They can just come in the room. Or even you can just remember them and bring them to mind. And many times Jesus, talked about remembering things. There's power in remembering. And so remembering that person who loves you or being with them with no words needing to be spoken resolves that feeling of alone. So as pastors, we're dealing with congregation members who feel alone. They're in families, with children, with spouses, but many of them are still at that level of feeling alone. And the dilemma is the resources that are out there are often just information, and that's not people's primary problem. If you've been doing your job, which I'm sure you have, of preaching and teaching, they know what it takes for good relationships to run, the spiritual principles, the forgiveness, the keeping a clear conscience, being full of compassion, all those things are necessary. They don't have the power to live it out. So how do people find that power to live out that stuff? And so resources have to be experiential. And so in my communication tool, the communication cure, we're coming from the premise that there needs to be connection in order to have communication. You might hear a spouse sitting in front of you saying, I just feel if we communicated better, we'd feel so connected, we'd be so much closer. And the truth is you need to have a connection first, and then you're able to address every conversation or every topic that is necessary. And so creating that connection is a neurological thing. There's lots that can be done to do that. I call the communication cure meaningful talk. And so how you connect with a person is being within 3 feet of them. At 3 feet of them, your brain chemistries start to match, and whoever has the stronger chemistry is going to influence that of the other person. So if you're glad to see somebody, if you have that joy and you're within 3 feet of them and coming out your eyes, you're going to change and influence that person's chemistry in their brain and actually pull them up. Physical touch, specifically loving physical touch, not anything that is sexual or lustful in nature, but more just affection, that hug that says, I'm glad to be with you, or that hand on the knee or the hand on the shoulder where appropriate can create that connection. Music, as a counselor, I always had background music playing, and I encourage pastors, if you're doing any pastoral counseling or in a counseling ministry, have music playing. For years I've used the Daily Bread hymns. It's instrumental hymns, and I'm amazed at how often, without even the words playing, but when they play A Mighty Fortress, and I'm doing some spiritual warfare type stuff, it's just very timely. I also use the music of Stanton Lanier, and he is a Christian with a ministry of music. He came out of a financial planning background, but he had this gift, and he now has 8 CDs out, and his ministry has given away 100,000 CDs to people in cancer treatment, and it helps ease their pain. And then to maintain that connection, there needs to be quality questions and quality statements being asked. So those are some things that can be happening. I would also say color can connect people. I have the picture of a couple sitting. We've got a beautiful park in town. It's the highest point in town. It looks over the mountain range here. And I picture my wife and I sitting on a bench together looking at the sunset over the mountain. That connects us, even without words. That shared experience between her and I. Words aren't necessary, but there is a connection occurring. This is my website, and I am actually going to show you what this resource is now and how it will play out for people and does all of this that I'm talking about. This is using technology. I tell people that you can actually have a better conversational experience using technology than without. And a lot of people say, well, no, I think Twitter and texting and all that stuff is just terrible. It reduces us to just soundbite communication. And so I'm not talking about that technology. We need to acknowledge that technology is a part of life. How can we use it to benefit our relationships and grow them? Well, technology can actually help create that connection. So this is a tool where people visit the website. There's my home page. And Chris, if this isn't flowing on the screens properly, if I need to slow down, just tell me. But
Okay, it looks like it's keeping up pretty well.
Okay.
Moment,
so people would go to talks and they would pick, are you wanting to talk to your spouse? Are you wanting to talk to your teen? Are you wanting to talk to your child? And that's starting anywhere from really age 4 or 5 up to 11, 12. Again, I'm basing this all on the maturity charts that are in the life model, which is just an incredible resource. And when kids learn these skills at the appropriate age, it's easy. When we're as adults have to learn these skills later on, it's tougher and we need some help. So this is that support, that help that's going to help. So people would pick the topic, who they are with that they want to be talking to. And then I've pulled up and then there's a list of all kinds of topics from expectations, commitment. Expectations, I used to ask couples, when was the last time you talked about the expectations you have of each other? And they would say, we never have. But every couple has expectations. So how can you provide something for them that will get to a meaningful level on that topic without turning into a fight and actually make sure they're addressing the things they need to address? So there are 30 different topics for couples. Being friends. This last one here, SOS ASAP. What do we do when we need help? Let's talk about it before we need help. Let's talk about not just the resources we have as far as counseling or people in the church we can talk to, but let's talk about what friends we have, that we agree with who each other is going to when we need to talk to somebody, because I wouldn't want my wife going to someone talking about an issue that I didn't think that person was going to give godly counsel, and vice versa. So who can we be mutually satisfied with as far as people we go to and turn to? So I picked one topic, surviving stress, and what you do is you sit in front of your computer with your spouse and you decide who's going to answer these questions. And let's say it's going to be the husband first, and he is going to sit facing his wife, holding hands, and going to let the computer ask the questions, and he's going to take as much time as he wants answering that question, and all the wife has to do is listen. It's called Meaningful Talk Made Easy. It's easy to sit and listen, and as you're listening, that relational circuitry that Carl Lehman calls it starts turning on, and your heart starts to open to that person. And it does two things. It brings a different agenda to the topic. We often have an agenda. I might want to start off listening to my wife, but if she gives an answer to one of my questions that feels kind of attacking to me, my agenda is going to change from listening to her to now I'm defending myself. And depending on how it goes back and forth, the agenda can change 10 times in a conversation. And typically the outcome doesn't, though. We end up in the same place we'd always end up. So this sets a different agenda, and that allows you to reach a different destination. And it also removes the tone. I can ask my wife a question like, do you really think that was a good thing to spend that extra $50 on? You know what the answer should be, and do you give it? Maybe out of fear you don't give it. So because this has an audio voice track asking the question, it removes all those tones and allows people to keep their hearts open, the relationship circuitry on. Call it what you want. They're able to maintain that connection. So I'm just going to hold my mic up to the speakers and show you how this goes.
Science has made it clear that our bodies are not able to thrive in a state of stress. Today's world is an always changing world, and though change can be positive, all change is a source of stress.
And then you're ready to hit next question.
In an average week for you, how many mornings do you wake up stressed, and how many nights do you struggle to fall asleep because of stress?
And then we got Stan Lanier's music in the background. So I had this guy's voice run by several functional neurologists who decided which tone and which depth was the best voice to have to keep the amygdala calm and allow people to respond. If his tone was any higher, it would actually be irritating and be a source of stress. So from his voice to the background music to the color green to the swooshes in the background, all of that is intentional to give sensory input that keeps you calm. And so this is a good conversation starter. And you might find it in a book, something along this line. But where do you go? Where's question number 2 after this? And where's question number 3? And question number 7? It's very hard to keep it on track again because our emotions get in there. But you'll see that these questions build on one another and does all the work for you. So you click next question.
Give at least 3 words you use to communicate that you are stressed.
So part of growing up and taking care of yourself is being able to appropriately articulate your thoughts, your needs, and your feelings, and it's giving you a chance. I might not use the word "I'm feeling stressed." It might just be a physical gesture I do or some other words, but I'm going to tell my spouse what those words are so she can clue in and say, "Oh, I think Keith is stressed now."
Recall a current or recent experience of stress for you. Describe to me what the stress was like for you and how you were affected by it. Detail as best you can the various contributing causes to that stress. Did you effectively rid yourself of that particular stress? If so, how? If not, why not? What is an effective way for you to relax and calm yourself when you are stressed?
You might be watching a bit of sports. There's a okay amount of sports, and then there's definitely overdoing it. But if the wife doesn't know that the husband just needs maybe 20 minutes of that or the news or something to just disconnect from all the stress at work, she's going to be on him. How come the first thing you do when you walk in the door is put yourself in front of the TV? She's going to take it personal. Why aren't you paying attention to me? And so just by clearing this up in a non-conflict time, she's gaining some understanding that's going to be helpful in the relationship.
Sometimes I don't realize that you are battling stress and therefore don't understand the reason why you're not fully engaged with me. In the future, would you please tell me that you need to do something to lower your level of stress so I can be supportive of you?
So I'm going to pause it there. That is an example. You can see there's a progress bar at the bottom there. It tells you how many questions there are in that. And then when you get to the end, actually I'll just skip through it. When you get to the end, you just replay it, and it starts over again for the other spouse to take their turns answering the questions. And you're aiming for, when I created this, I was aiming for 20 minutes of connected conversation where the emotions don't come in and derail it. At the 20-minute mark of meaningful communication, there's a release of oxytocin, which is the bonding chemical. And so the amount of oxytocin released at that 20-minute mark I've read is equal to what is released during intercourse between a couple. So a very powerful, natural thing that God intended can occur when we can keep conversation going that long. And at least the couples I see, that make it into my office, and probably as pastors that make it into your office, are not able to have 20 minutes of conversation and have that bonding occur. And so that's what we're aiming for. here's a talk on dating for parents and teenagers, because I have found if mom has shame about her dating experiences, she'll, or father, they'll have two different extreme reactions. They either won't address it at all because they're afraid of what the child might bring up about their parents dating, or they can tend towards being very controlling, because they've got that pain, it's unresolved. What do we do with it? We either stuff it down or we act out of it and become very controlling and not be able to be relational. Well, how can you have a conversation about dating that is interesting and beneficial for each? I'll just give you a sample of this one. This is the teen answering while the parent is listening.
What is the difference between being really good friends with someone and dating that person? When I was a teen, it was more often the case that the boy asked the girl to start dating. I'm quite sure it's not that way today. In your opinion, does it matter who does the asking? Would you prefer to be asked, be the asker, or take it on a case-by-case basis?
This is really fun talk to do as a family, because I got 3 minor teenagers, and to sit with them and just have them share their opinions and ask these questions in a very non-threatening, relaxed way.
What would prompt you to move from friendship to dating that person? Are there good reasons not to date in high school and wait until you're older? What qualities and characteristics should a teenager have before they start dating?
I'm going to jump forward to a point where now it's the parents' turn to answer the question.
And describe that relationship. When do you think a person is ready to start dating?
Because parents do have their opinions on that, but if a teen answers that question and says, I think you can date in grade 10, watch that parent's face change when they don't agree with that. And that will shut communication down right there. But because we asked the teenager several questions back and the parent was just listening, that reaction doesn't occur. Parent gets a chance now. They still get their chance to give their input and things, but again, it's not as a response because they didn't like the child's answer, and they can give it while maintaining the flow of the communication. And so several of these parent-teenager ones switch halfway through and allow the parent to answer the questions, and because I believe a relationship is built through mutual respect and friendship, although parents are still the authorities in their children's lives, but this facilitates that mutual respect of, I have one talk on the topic of accountability, and with that, or approachability, the teenager gets to talk and answer questions about how approachable that particular parent is. And if the parent was more approachable, would the teenager come to them with more stuff? And it's great for a parent to hear their kids say, yeah, I really do want to share with you, Dad. It's just that, I always see you on the computer and you're busy with work. Well, as that parent hears that in a non-judgmental rejection way, their heart opens further and says, I want to be the kind of parent that will be there and listen to you. And then it reverses, and the parent gets to talk about how approachable is that child, because there may be times where as a dad I want to talk to my daughters about how they're dressing or what their schedules are and things, and they're not always approachable, but it's got to go both ways, right? Because we're aiming for that mutual satisfaction on these issues, and so by working on approachability, that can happen. So this really is application of the life model maturity charts and a lot of their teaching, but not using that language and just bringing it up in a very conversational way. Actually, I'm going to jump ahead. I wasn't sure if I'd have internet, so I threw in a bunch of slides there. All right, so here we are. The communication carrots patent pending. I put a patent on it as a way to build relationships because there are conversation starters out there, but nothing that guarantees a complete, fulfilling conversation, and so that's what I'm aiming for there. And there's 23 elements that create connection, from some of the color, music, being close to the person type things, to expressing appreciation, gaining clarification, sharing family history, sharing needs. All of these things are built in there. And I've aimed and been able to have 12 of those 23 into every talk. It's different in every talk. It's biblical and scientifically based. It's multi-sensory. So the more senses involved in an experience, the more engaged you are. And that's why the background music is just so important. Reading these questions off a piece of paper just doesn't have the same effect. It's truly interactive and experiential. It's built on the platform of maturity that the life model teaches. It opens and restores and can strengthen communication wherever you're at. It's going to improve it, and it's very easy. So basically, and this is what Chris and his ministry and team teach about the control center and the joy center of the brain, and how it's stimulated and strengthened by at least these three things, and these are all built into this tool. When stress hits, we resort to fear, anger, food, and sex as ways to manage the pain. Our physical bodies will try and resolve the emotional upset we have, and if we don't have relational skills, it's going to go to some of these things here to try and get rid of that pain for us. But those always come with an expense, and it's usually some kind of deterioration in relationships with others and in our own lives. The brain is designed to emphasize, sympathize, and act compassionately, and it's designed to do it in that order. So that empathy is really that connection that I've been talking about. You don't have a choice about it. You either are connected to a person or you're not, and it's based on what you see coming out their eyes. And your brain decides, can I handle what this person is bringing to me? If they're overwhelmed, if I come home and Nancy homeschooled all 6 kids, and she's overwhelmed, and I just came out of a meeting that totally overwhelmed me, I'm going to see that in her eyes. It's going to hit the mirror neurons in my brain. We don't have to get into that, but I'm going to feel that and say, I can't handle one more overwhelmed person. It's enough for me. And I'll disengage, and I might just ask very distant questions or functional type questions more than caring, relationship building type questions. And so you empathize right away, and let's just say you're so glad to see that person. The joy is there. It doesn't matter what they're coming at you with. They're frustrated with one of the kids. They're upset because a friend just told them of some tragedy that they just experienced in their family. Whatever is your joy trumps that, and so you're able to connect and engage with them, and then you can move into sympathy, and that's asking the questions, finding out more about the situation. And when you reach that sympathy stage, then in a fifth of a second, the compassion circuitry in your brain kicks in, and that's very interesting. What is the greatest command? To love. And so if God commanded us and said it was the greatest thing is to love Him and to love others, He would have designed and created us in a way to make that possible. And here He has. The problem is we're not empathizing with people. We're not able to connect with them. And so this tool is a way for them to empathize and connect more often, sympathize, and then act compassionately. So in counseling, I'm looking for people to come up with the solutions to their problems. Not all the time, but sometimes it's very appropriate that I just work with them and connecting them by having them hold hands, face each other, giving them questions, and then I see the husband offer a solution to the problem that the wife is facing in the relationship. And then I know I've got it in the sense of, okay, everything's turned on that needs to be turned on. They are acting compassionately. They've regained that ability. And I can structure that. I tested this out at what I call the most hostile environments in the world, and that's a grade 9 health class. And so I got invited to a secular high school in town. Nancy goes into the school the day before me and gives her testimony and story, and she gets to talk about God and all that. It's great. And then I go in the next day and I talk about the communication key and the connection components and all of that. And at the end of the class, there's one particular year doing this, the teacher gave me 2 grade 9 boys and said, I want you to demonstrate your connection communication technique with these boys. And I'm thinking, grade 9 boys in front of a class of 20-something other kids? I said, well, if it works here, it'll work anywhere. So I faced the boys, and the classroom all turned their desks and made like a circle around them, and so they were really the center of attention. I didn't have them hold hands, but I had them sit knee to knee very close, and I gave one boy the question to ask the other boy, and he asked them out loud. And just to summarize it, it went to this person. The one boy answering the questions was from a military family and had moved around a whole lot in life. And so I had the student asking the question, well, how do you feel walking the halls of Liberty High School? And because of that, and he says, I feel alone, which was an incredible opening and vulnerability, because he actually went to the deepest pain that a person can feel, and he was in a position to share that in front of his class. He said, I feel alone. And then I had the student ask him, how do you deal with the pain of feeling alone? And that was my bad, my mistake. I thought, because he said, I go home and I cut myself every day. And he started freaking out, saying, I can't believe I said that in front of everybody. I'm so embarrassed. What an idiot I am. And he just went on like that. And I had this class, I said, class, if you have more respect for him now because he's been open and honest with you, stand up. And the whole class stood up, clapped for him, just some tangible way to say, we're here, we're with you, we support you. We continued talking, found out that there was a whole lot of other pain in his life from other situations. He was willing to share it in front of the class because everyone was connected to what was going on in his life and what he was sharing. And so at the end of the class, I said, if you want to carry a piece of his pain with you, take it off him so he doesn't have to carry that burden today, stand up. And again, the whole class stood up and clapped as a tangible expression of we want to care for you. And that was a very orchestrated by me our experience of going from empathy to sympathy to compassion. These people were willing to support this guy and take the burden of his pain away. But what happened after amazed me. The class was done. I was talking to the teacher, and a student came up to the person who feels alone, and the student said to him, hey, I have you in my Spanish class after health class. Can I walk with you so you don't feel alone? I thought, wow. That's it. That's how God designed people. That is the picture of Christ. That is the picture of what love is. And this grade 9 boy reached out, was very clear with what he was expressing his intentions to be, and cared for that guy. I believe that guy's life changed that day. And so in what I'm doing in the counseling is I really focus on allowing people to empathize, working them through some sympathy, and looking to see this compassion turn on. And that is built into the communication cure tool, whether it's with teenagers, children, or spouses, working people through that process. There are 30 different talks, as I said, for marriage. I call these my core talks, which is if you really want to just get reconnected, go through these topics. These are things that I find people in counseling do not talk about on a regular basis. These first 10, starting with my favorites and going down to you and me, you are answering all the questions just about yourself. So it's very safe. You're talking about people in your life, from teachers you've had, employers you've had, friends you've had, people you've had great times with, and then there's kind of that zinger question of who's someone in your life that contributed in a negative way. And so you're able to open your heart a little bit with your spouse just listening, but because it has nothing to do with the two of you, it's just good at building and strengthening that connection, that joy strength that we talk about. Then the next 20 are all things about the relationship that couples need to be talking about. There's nothing overtly Christian in the content of these questions. So it can be given to anybody, because my hope with this whole ministry is to turn on the relationship circuitry in people so that they can start entertaining the idea of a relationship with God, and say, when you say to people, you can have a relationship with God today, and they think back to their relationship with their parent or their spouse, and they go, no thanks, I don't do relationships very well. I'm not interested in a relationship with God, thank you. Well, if they could experience the joy that can come in relationship, I think they'll be better positioned to experience something there with God. And then they can find Christian content on our site. There's 20 parent and child talks. And a lot of the things in the maturity that Life Model teaches is built into this, like talents. If a child doesn't learn to identify and develop, and parents aren't supportive of that child developing their talents, they will grow up and live a unfruitful life filled with comfort and fantasy. And we don't want our children there. So let's, at a young age of 6 or 7, start talking about what talents they have and how they can use those to better people's lives. And then there's 20 parent and teen talks, which really, depending on, your family best, you might be able to start some of these with your 10-year-old and go all the way up to 18. So this is a very meaningful tool. It creates that heart connection. It's very easy. You just have to pick the topic that you want off the list and click the button and answer the questions. It's very personal. It's about you. There's great content out there. I absolutely love when I went to the Emerson Eggerichs Love and Respect conference. Great conference, great communicator. But there's some stuff in the book I just didn't identify with. And I've had other guys in particular say, well, I didn't read that book. I didn't identify. I didn't see myself in it and stuff. Well, this is personal. All these questions are about you. So there's no excuse there not to go into it. It's truly interactive. It's not just watching a video online. It is actually doing it, is engaging you and interacting in relationship with others. It's accessible wherever you have internet access. It's very affordable. So what I'm available to you guys is to speak. I speak at churches, nonprofits. I've spoken at Compassion International in town, Navigators here, several churches in the U.S. and in Canada. And as far as licensing, it would be if a pastor was interested in saying, how can I make this available to every family in my church? Or just, how do I direct families who want this resource? What can they do? They can visit thecommunicationcure.com and sign up, purchase a package or a whole family pack, which includes all of those. If you want to get updates on what I'm doing, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn under those various things. And if you have any questions that we're not able to get to today, you can email me at keith@thecommunicationcure.com. That is the email that comes directly to me. And I promise I'll get back to you within 3 weeks. So just joking. I'll try, and you know what it's like, Chris. And Pat,
I do.
You know what it's like. Try to get back to you in 24 hours or 36 hours. How's that?
Well, Keith,
right,
wow. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just stopping
okay.
sharing my screen there.
Wow, this is a brilliant resource. I want people to ask you some questions here. You've given us so much to chew on, and I love what you've done here. It's accessible, it's practical, and it's powerful. It's effective. You've done a lot of work. Wow.
Yeah, it's 7 years in the making, but it was God's idea, and He gave it to me and said, I want you to steward this. And so I've worked hard on it. It's being well received in a couple counties here in Denver and Colorado Springs. They want to give it to their dads who have visitation with their kids and don't have them all the time. And so here's a tool that they can build a relationship with their teens. I'm talking to chaplains of Fort Carson about getting it in there. And people recognize it. They see that it's that thing between a book, which is information, and counseling, which has a lot of barriers to it, financial and things like that. So,
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Denny, let's open this up to our friends here who might have a question for Keith. You've given us so much good stuff here to chew on.
I've got a couple things going already. The first main question is, you said the name of the person who did the music that you had gotten, and they missed that. Could you say that again?
Okay.
I'll type
Stanton,
it
Stanton.
in.
Is there a place I can type this in?
I'm going to type it into the general audience chat.
Okay.
So.
All right.
Stanton.
Stanton, Stanton Lanier, Lanier.
Okay.
So his website is stantonlanier.com. Incredible individual and ministry. He's actually coming. He's in Georgia. He's coming to Denver next week, and I'm going up to see. He does a piano concert with all the visuals and things like that, and it's just he's the pianist of peace.
Okay.
Wow.
And he really brings it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I put that on the chat to all the audience. If you're going to do the website, obviously you don't need the space between the names. But next we have Terry Whitney. I'm not sure if she's going to be unmuted or not, but I'm going to try. She's calling in on a phone. Terry, are you there?
I am here.
Hi.
Hi, Terry.
Hi. Hey,
Okay.
I was wondering, with using your website with a teenager, how would you recommend you approach a teenager who might be apprehensive to do that?
Yeah, great question. I get that a lot. I get people saying, that's a real good question, good topic. My kid will never do that. And I get some husbands actually who say that too. Here's where I started with my own kids, is I had to humble myself and admit and apologize that I hadn't done as good a job as I could connecting with them and communicating with them at the level that they need. And I explained, here's the level that you need it at. Here's what I've done is I've talked more just about what's your schedule, how do I get you here, how do I get you there, did you have fun? And so would you forgive me and allow me to be more intentional with you and do this? And then it's like any other resource out there, they have to say yes or no to it and agree with it. But another option is to introduce it in a family setting. So it's the best family night we do, where we take the numbers 1 to 20, and one kid pulls a number out, and that's the talk we're going to do with them. And they come and sit between Nancy and myself, and I have my laptop on my lap, and we go through that talk, and they're sharing out loud, and they're close, snuggled in with my wife and I, and all the 5 other kids are listening, and they're going through it in their heads, and they want to answer, but they're not, but they're going through it. and that child experiences it, and then, when the teenager's turn is, you might give them the option, maybe not sitting in between you, that's kind of optional, but make it as close as you can, and say, okay, now it's your turn, and have them go through it. And if they're not the first person doing it, they often will say something like, I can do that. I saw you do that with the 10-year-old. Yeah, I could do that. This is not threatening at all. And always give them the out. Say, hey, if this ever gets too much, please tell me, and we'll stop the conversation.
Which makes it safe. Yeah.
Got to be safe. Yep.
Wow.
Good
Great.
question. Same with, let me address the question that might come as, what do I do if my husband doesn't want to do it? Again, I'm coming out of a counseling setting, so I'll tell this couple, probably if you're in my office with some issues, you haven't been able to pass on too much good to your kids. So take your eyes off your marital problems. Take the parent-child talk. Take the parent-team. Go home and spend some time building those relationships. And the husband will say, wow, I just had to sit and listen to my child, and they responded that way. They opened up so quickly. I think maybe I could do this with my wife. And so they could do it on a date on their phone or something like that. So there's ways. Please email me if you have a specific situation. I can talk you through it.
Mm-hmm. So you find, Keith, that it actually does create that safety for men to be able to really open up and share their hearts.
Yeah, several years ago I actually got on a television program. It was a morning show, and they have 5-minute segments, and they ended up giving my wife and I the whole show. And the host was a 50-something-year-old man, and he was just all over this. And the callers were guys coming in. Guys actually appreciate it more than the women because it is easy. A dad to be able to sit down and just open up his iPad at the table and go through this. He's providing what deep down he really wants to. Maybe he can't pull it out of himself to do it all and carry the whole weight on himself. Guys like it.
And in a sense, it's giving the guys permission to really express some of what's in their heart. I mean, what a great resource for guys to have that permission, so to speak.
How many guys are stuck at that first stage of maturity, or fall back to that very easily? 75% of guys are there, so they need this. So not only are these dads helping the relationships in their family, they're actually finding healing themselves because they're able to express the things that they were never able to growing up. And so it's healing for them. It's building into the relationships. It's a lot of things.
And I like, Keith, you've covered a lot of ground here. I'm thinking about my boys. This is a resource I really want to practice not only in my marriage but also with my sons. I like that you've got this resource that families can do with their children.
Yeah. We've got coming up,
Sorry, we're getting some feedback for some reason.
I created 3 conversations around the Man of Steel Superman movies.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know why that is. And it's coming out on DVD, and so I'm going to re-release them, put them on the website, and they're for free. And, the first conversation is just about the movie. What was your favorite scene? What was your favorite superpower that Superman had? Who do you think would like that movie? But again, that's all very important for allowing that child the opportunity to express their identity and their preferences and all that. But then the next 2 talks, one is Life's Not Always Super, Just Ask Kent. And that's about the rejection and the bullying Kent faced. And it's using the movie to give you an opportunity to speak into your child's life and listen to them about, are there things that you're afraid if people find out about you, they would reject you, and bring those things out. So you can be watching the website for when those are out there. Good starters.
And I just want to highlight real quick, this is something that churches can actually use as a resource. So I want our pastors to really hear that this is a really good resource that can be used in their churches, not in their families.
I've talked with pastors who they see it and they go, here's what I'll do with this resource. I'll agree to meet with a couple for 45 minutes, an hour.
Wow.
But then before I see them the second time, I want them to get the marriage talks and go through all 30. I know going through all those 30 of those is further than you're going to get in 1, 2, or 3 counseling sessions.
That's right.
And it's at home. So giving them some responsibility. You guys do some work at home, and then come back and let's see where the problems are now. And it may not address the exact issue, but it's building that joy strength between them so that they can handle the conflict when it comes up.
Mm-hmm.
So
And as a pastoral counselor, I love that because it does, it ensures the couples both are doing some work in the whole process.
Right. Yep.
Wow. All right. Denny, any other questions here?
Yep, and I apologize for having to jet out of there real quick. I have to share a praise report real quickly. That was a phone call from my daughter's boyfriend, who's a Marine in Afghanistan, and he got injured, but he's coming home. So we are praising God that he's coming home alive. So that's wonderful news.
Wow. So he's coming home. Praise God.
So anyway, sorry, Jim Fry has got his hand up. I'm going to try to unmute. Jim, are you there?
Are you with us, Jim?
I don't hear anything. Let me try Zoanna while we're waiting on him. Zoanna, are you there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Zoanna.
Hi, I just wanted to ask, is there anything within this program for, he talked about up to age 18 kids, but is there anything in there that would help communication between adult children, that are out of the home now, kind of heal relationships between parents and those age kids?
Yes, not yet. And I appreciate you seeing the opportunity and the need there for this. But that will go on my list of talks.
Yeah.
So nothing yet there for that specific demographic. It does bring to my mind something that I've had many couples do as parents with adult children who may have their own families. It's a great resource to give them. And again, I love love and respect. If I give my married child love and respect, I'm making a statement about their relationship that maybe she's not respecting or he's not loving, and how they receive it is may not be helpful. But to give them something, say, hey, we want to give you something that's just going to allow you guys to talk and connect as a family, and it will kind of fill in the hole and produce the results that needs to be created. And so for anyone who's listening today and on the internet, I give you permission that if you were to go in and buy the resource for you and your spouse or your children, you have permission to give your login credentials to your extended family, because I'm very interested in generational ministry. So if you buy it, give it to your adult children so they've got those 30 talks for their dates, and as their kids grow up, they're going to have it through their family the whole time. So that's something I want to give people. But
that's awesome.
That's great.
If you sign up, you'll find out when these other packages come available.
Thank you, Keith. All right, we have time for about one more question. So,
okay, I've got Robert typed in, do you have any examples for applications in church split situations?
I'm not sure who the communication needs to be occurring between. Is it members of the church or is it the...
I would assume, but he did just type that in, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. No, I don't have that. I recommend the guy Chris Coursey, that you bring him in and have him work with your leadership and do some group exercise healing. I've appointed many people to him, but I think that's a ministry Chris has. And because your stuff is so experiential, and your year one and your year two exercise books, getting some of that stuff going in a church context can bring healing. Definitely.
Yeah.
So I don't have anything in my program specific for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, I want to steer everybody to Keith again. His website is thecommunicationcure.com, and Keith, I just want to thank you here. I'm going to talk about a few additional resources here, but I just want to say it's been a privilege to have you with us here.
Well, thank you. It's been fun. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and pastors and their wives and organizations, and I love that we're all coming together in this setting and with technology to build the body up, the large capital C church and family. So I appreciate your work as well and this opportunity.
Thank you. I'd love to have you back. We've got to get you back.
Okay.
We're just scratching the surface, I think.
Good. Thank you.
All right, friends. I just we're gonna close here with a couple resources. Again, I'm just going to mention one more time, Kurt, Keith's website, thecommunicationcure.com. I really hope you guys will visit, see what some of these wonderful resources are. And yeah, we've got a book just came out here called Joy Starts Here. I just want to invite friends to check it out. I really like what you shared today, Keith. It's so compatible with what we do. It's so complementary with what we do, and what we're doing is, I believe, very complementary to what you're doing. And this is exciting stuff. You've just taken you've got a resource here unlike anything I've really seen before. So
honestly,
yeah.
Chris, it's all, so much of it is application of what you guys have. People always ask me for recommendations for books, and I say, I've got bookshelves in my garage of books, and I say for the past 6 years, it's been my Bible and my Green Book. Beside my bed, that's all I need to be going back to. And now with this new one, which I have and have read, I got to chew on that one a bit more.
Yep.
It's really, really good stuff. So, yeah, it is complimentary, but I wouldn't have what I have if it wasn't for you guys got out there.
That is really good to hear. Thank you. Next week I'm going to be, Keith, I'm going to be in Canada next week.
You got to go to Tim Hortons for me.
Yeah, one of my favorite places to go right there. Doing a marriage retreat in Medicine Hat, which is a really beautiful place, I understand. So, yeah, I'm going to bring my winter gear. But I just want to invite friends. People can still register. I know it's a week away, but actually registration's still open if people want to have a little getaway. I'd love to see some of you there. Jen and I try to come out with a very simple resource that can help couples build joy. And about 30 days of exercises here where couples can just do some things to try to increase their joy levels. And so that's what this whole 30 days of joy is about. Last thing I really want to mention here is next, well, not next week, because I'll be in Canada, but the 21st, Ed Corey's going to talk about how joy is transforming people in Peru and what this has to do with you. And so I really want to invite all of you to join us for that. Ed just has a lot of great stuff to share about his recent trip and how what's happening there is actually very relevant for us as well here in the States and Canada, and we kind of have listeners from all over, so I can't limit us to the States, but this is relevant. And we're going to have 2 more Joy Streams in December, and then we're going to call it for 2013. So we'll keep you posted on presenters and topics, but the 5th and the 12th of December. And, it's good to see this. I've got a lot of you. I'm starting to recognize more names. I'm just thrilled to see some of you here. Just want to give a quick shout out to Chris. I see you there, and David, and Jerry, Joel, Hoka. I just want to appreciate all of you here. There's a lot of names I don't recognize, so I look forward to getting to know you. And again, Keith, thank you. Thank you for this brilliant resource that you have. Thank you for your heart, your vulnerability, your transparency. It's really a privilege to have you here.
Thanks again.
So,
yeah, it's been fun. Thank you, Danny, for your help.
Sure, no problem.
Yep, Denny, thank you. We are thrilled, and we praise God for the report that you have. Thank you for that. And why don't we just close with a prayer of blessing, all right? So, Lord God, we bless you. We thank you for this day. I thank you for every person who's here. Thank you for this group. Lord, you brought our hearts together, and thank you. When we bless this day, we give it to you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
God bless.